After that, we came back and we were going to go to.
At 83, Tina Turner isn't trying to look respectable anymore. She isn't protecting reputations. She isn't rewriting history to make anyone comfortable. When asked whether she was ever tempted by the men she stood beside on stage, Tina didn't hesitate. She laughed and then told the truth. For decades, she performed shoulder to shoulder with the most dangerously attractive artists in music history. And no, she wasn't blind to it. She felt the heat, she felt the pull, and more than once, she had to stop herself from stepping straight into trouble. This isn't a scandal, it's a confession. Tina admits there were men whose voices slid into her bones, whose presence made every rule feel optional. She always stayed professional, but not because the temptation wasn't real. It was. Very real. Now, with nothing left to lose, Tina Turner finally names the 6 artists who made her weak and the self-control that kept everything from exploding. Number 1. David Bowie, The Seduction of Mystery. David Bowie never chased desire. He let it come to him, and that was exactly what made him so dangerous. When Tina Turner spoke about Bowie, her tone shifted, not heated, but intrigued. Bowie wasn't just attractive, he was unknowable. He walked into a room like he'd already rewritten the rules, and everyone else was simply trying to catch up. What unsettled Tina most was how Bowie looked at people. Not in a hungry way, not aggressively, but like he could already see past your defenses, past the version of yourself you showed the world. He didn't pull secrets out of you, he made you curious about your own. Around him, Tina admitted, boundaries felt flexible, gender felt fluid, desire felt intellectual before it ever became physical. Bowie didn't need volume. He didn't need to perform masculinity or dominance. He could stand silent in the corner of a room, and somehow all eyes would drift back to him. And when he finally spoke, when that voice slid in, soft, controlled, deliberate, it felt like an invitation without pressure. Tina wondered more than once what it would be like to step into that private world of his, where nothing had to be defined and nothing had to be explained. With Bowie, temptation wasn't about losing control. It was about curiosity, about wanting to see what might happen if you let go of certainty. David Bowie didn't seduce with fire. He seduced with mystery. Number 2. Al Green, When Safety Becomes Dangerous. Al Green was temptation disguised as comfort. He didn't approach desire aggressively. He wrapped it in warmth. His voice didn't demand attention, it reassured you. And that, Tina admitted, was far more dangerous than raw passion. The first time Tina heard Al Green perform Let's Stay Together Live, she felt the room soften. The air changed. Women weren't leaning forward in excitement, they were sinking back, surrendering. His voice felt like hands that didn't rush, didn't grab, didn't force. It guided. It promised safety. And that was the trap. Tina said Al Green made you feel like nothing bad could happen if you followed him. Like you could close your eyes and trust the moment completely. His singing didn't ask permission. It didn't negotiate. It simply took you under, slowly and sweetly, until you forgot you were resisting anything at all. She admitted that if Al had leaned close, if he'd hummed even a single note into her ear, the night might have slipped entirely out of control. Not in chaos, in quiet, in closeness, in something far more intimate than heat. Al Green wasn't temptation in leather or sweat. He was temptation in silk, and sometimes that's the hardest kind to walk away from. Number 3. Marvin Gaye, A Voice That Made Women Surrender. Marvin Gaye didn't sing to audiences. He sang to bodies. When Tina Turner talked about Marvin, her words slowed down. Because Marvin Gaye wasn't about spectacle. He was about feeling. His voice moved like velvet, smooth, warm, but hiding a hunger just beneath the surface. Tina remembered hearing Let's Get It On Live for the first time and watching an entire room go still. Men stopped shifting in their seats. Women forgot where they were. Marvin barely moved on stage, yet somehow made it feel like he was touching everyone at once. There was vulnerability in his voice, but also need. He stretched notes just long enough to sound like he was asking for something. Begging, almost. And Tina admitted that more than once, she wondered what it would feel like to give him exactly what he was asking for alone, away from the lights, where that voice could do whatever it wanted. Marvin didn't overwhelm. He invited. And once invited, resistance felt unnecessary. Listening to him wasn't passive, it was participatory. You didn't hear his music, you entered it. Tina said some men sing songs. Marvin Gaye made you live inside them, and if she'd ever let herself step into that private space with him, she doubted she would have walked out unchanged. Number 4. Prince, pure electricity, without warning. Prince was danger without volume. Electricity without touch. Standing next to him felt like standing too close to a live wire. He was small in stature, but his presence filled every inch of the room. He didn't walk, he glided, like the world moved at his pace, not the other way around. Tina admitted that Prince didn't need to say a word. One look, one smile, and you already knew you were in trouble. He played guitar like it was an extension of his body, sliding into notes the way other men slid into temptation. His movements weren't just musical, they were suggestive, intentional, controlled. What unsettled Tina most was his stillness. Prince could sit silently, not moving at all, and somehow command every eye. Then, without warning, he'd move, and the entire room would shift. Music became foreplay. Performance became provocation. Sharing a stage with him required discipline. Tina had to remind herself why she was there. Because with Prince, every glance felt like an invitation. Every gesture felt personal. Prince didn't need to touch you to make you feel it. You were already vibrating, and resisting that kind of energy was a challenge all its own. Number 5. James Brown, raw passion without restraint. James Brown wasn't subtle. He was fire. Sharing a stage with him felt like standing next to a volcano, beautiful, unpredictable, and dangerous. He didn't perform music. He erupted into it. Sweat poured. Bodies moved. Energy exploded. Tina watched him drop into splits, scream into the microphone, collapse and rise again like the music possessed him. And she wondered how anyone was supposed to behave themselves with that much intensity happening inches away. James Brown didn't try to make his passion pretty. He didn't soften it. He gave audiences grit, sweat, and raw power. And standing next to that kind of force made Tina imagine what he might be like when the spotlight shut off. When all that energy focused on just one person instead of an arena, there was something intoxicating about his lack of control, his refusal to contain himself. Passion without apology. Tina admitted there were moments she wanted to forget the music entirely and just feel that heat up close, because with James Brown, nothing was half-measured. If she'd ever let him pull her off stage, she believed the show wouldn't have ended, it would have just moved somewhere else. Number 6. Mick Jagger, the wildest temptation of all. Mick Jagger was chaos with rhythm. From the moment Tina met him, the chemistry was undeniable. Mick didn't hide his energy, he flaunted it. Always moving, always restless, always daring the world to keep up. Their Live Aid performance in 1985 still lives in infamy. Clothes came off, bodies collided, and none of it was rehearsed. It wasn't acting, it was instinct. Two people barely holding themselves back once the music started. Backstage, Mick was just as electric, pacing, laughing, shaking his hips even when there was no music playing. One grin from him felt like a challenge. One touch, even innocent, carried sparks. Tina said Mick was dangerous because he didn't promise anything. No romance, no safety, just fire. A night with him wouldn't have been calm or quiet. It would have been loud, sleepless, and unforgettable. And maybe that's why they never crossed the line. Because sometimes the tension alone is enough to burn everything down. At 83, Tina Turner isn't trying to impress anyone anymore. She's not chasing approval, she's not protecting myths, and she's certainly not pretending she lived her life untouched by desire. What makes these confessions powerful isn't who the men were. The world already knows their names. What matters is what Tina chose to do with those moments when temptation was real, when chemistry was undeniable, and when the line was right there in front of her. She doesn't tell these stories with shame. She tells them with understanding. Tina knows now that desire is not weakness. Feeling the pull doesn't erase discipline. If anything, it sharpens it. Standing next to fire and choosing not to burn takes strength most people never have to test. And for decades, night after night, she tested it on stages soaked in sweat, under lights that magnified every glance, every breath, every unspoken invitation. These 6 men represented different kinds of temptation: mystery, comfort, vulnerability, electricity, raw power, chaos. And Tina Turner met each one as a woman fully alive, aware of her body, her instincts, and her boundaries. She never pretended music was clean or safe. She understood that sex, rhythm, and emotion are woven together. What she refused to do was lie to herself about it. Now, at this stage of her life, she can finally say what most people never dare to admit. Some moments didn't need to happen to be unforgettable. Some fires didn't need to be touched to leave their mark. Tina Turner didn't become a legend by denying who she was. She became one by owning it. Every desire, every restraint, every choice. These confessions don't rewrite her legacy. They complete it. Because legends aren't made by pretending to be perfect. They're made by living fully and telling the truth when the world is finally quiet enough to listen. If you want to hear more untold stories and late-life confessions from the icons who shaped generations, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. The most honest stories are often the ones told last.